I am super excited. We have been in a series. We started it last week, and it is called Finish Strong. Look to the person next to you, say finish. Come on, say it like you mean it. Say finish strong. Say it one more time. Say finish, and then say it with your chest. Say strong. Have you ever met a family member that knew you, but you didn't know them? Have you ever met a family member that knew you and didn't? Like, have you ever been at a barbecue? You're hanging out at the park playing basketball, and there's a bunch of family members there, and somebody comes up to you, and it's always like, "Oh my gosh, I knew you when you were little." And it's like, okay, I still don't know who you are. Like, I'm sorry. And then they're starting to say all these memories. "Oh, you used to come to my house." And I'm like, well, that's weird because I don't know you. I don't know who you are. And then they even maybe get into like a little bit too much detail. Like, they're like, "Oh, I used to change your diapers." And it's like, well, I don't wear those anymore. So that's weird. I don't need to know that. I don't need to know that you changed my diapers. And the reason why it's weird, the reason why it's awkward, the reason why we don't like these moments, can we all agree that's a little awkward when you meet someone that knows you, but you don't know them? Like that, yeah, that's a little awkward. Like, "What's up, cousin?" Like, I don't know you. We're not cousins. I don't know you. The reason why it's weird is because a very big thing in our life, a very big question in our life is, what will you be remembered for? What will you be remembered for? And a lot of times when I ask this question, you might be thinking, well, is he talking about like later, like when I die? Like, no, I'm not talking about when you die. That would be a little dark, right? Like, that'd be really weird. You chose the wrong night to come to youth. But what I'm talking about is, what will you be remembered for? What will you be remembered for when you graduate and you go to college? What will you be remembered for when you move on to high school? What will you be remembered for when you switch teams, when you maybe move across the country? What will you be remembered for? What will people remember you for? What will they think when they hear your name? What will they think when they see you on the street? What will they think when they see you maybe on social media? What will you be remembered for? What are you going to be remembered for? What am I going to be remembered for? What will we be remembered for? So we have this story in the Bible, and we talked about it last week, to where there's this guy, and he goes up to Jesus, and he asks him this question, a question you might have asked, a question I know that I've asked, and he asked him this question. He says, "Jesus, what do I have to do to go to heaven?" That's what he asks him. He says, "Jesus, what do I have to do? What do I have to do? What are the things that I have to do so that I can go to heaven?" Because it sounds a lot better than the other place, right? So what can I do? How can I go to heaven? That's what he asked him, and Jesus begins to tell this story. He begins to walk him through this story, and what happens in Luke chapter 10. It says, Jesus replied with a story. A Jewish man was traveling from Jerusalem down to Jericho, and he was attacked by bandits. They stripped him of his clothes, beat him up, and left him half dead beside the road. By chance, a priest came along, but when he saw the man lying there, he crossed to the other side of the road and passed him by. A temple assistant walked over and looked at him lying there, but he also passed by on the other side. Then a despised Samaritan came along, and when he saw the man, he felt compassion for him. Going over to him, the Samaritan soothed his wounds with olive oil and wine and bandaged them. Then he put the man on his own donkey and took him to an inn where he took care of him. The next day, he handed the innkeeper 2 silver coins, telling him, "Take care of this man. If his bill runs higher than this, I'll pay you the next time I'm here." Let's pray one more time before we get into the talk tonight. God, I thank you that in moments of our life, God, when we feel alone, you were there. In moments of our life, God, when we feel like there is nowhere we can go, you were there. You're with us. You comfort us. You wrap your arms around us because you were there. So I pray that tonight, God, that we would walk out and we would say we saw the face of God, that you were present, that you were with us, that we walk out and we say, I've never felt the presence of God like that before. I've never seen the presence of God like that before. Give us moments like that tonight. In Jesus' name. And everyone said? There was this famous video that came out, and it was pretty much this video where they ask you to count how many times this team passes the ball. Now, raise your hand if this is starting to sound familiar. Raise your hand if you've maybe seen this. So we're going to play this video. I'm going to ask respectfully that you do not spoil it, because I think what can happen is people are going to be counting, and they want to get the right answer, right? So we're going to try to get the right answer. But what I need you to watch this video so we have it, but don't spoil it, all right? But I need you to yell out the answer afterwards, all right? They're gonna ask you a question, you're gonna yell out the answer. So go ahead and put the video on.
This is a test of selective attention. Count how many times the players wearing white pass the basketball. How many passes did you count?
14.
The correct answer is 15 passes. But did you see the gorilla?
Who saw the gorilla? You can take the video off. Who saw the gorilla the first time? It was your first time seeing it, you saw the gorilla? You guys are better than me. I did not see it. I was like, there's no way. And then if you're like me, you like rewound it, like you rewound the video, and there's no way that there is a gorilla. And there was a gorilla. It's crazy. It is crazy that you can be looking at something but not truly see what's going on. You can be looking at something and miss the entire picture. Now, when I tell the story of the Good Samaritan, what can happen is the temptation, because you've heard this story before. Raise your hand if you ever heard this story before, the Good Samaritan. Yeah, maybe you've heard this story before. Maybe 1,000 times you've heard this story. And what can happen is, if I was to ask you, hey, what's the Good Samaritan about? What's this story about? The majority of us would probably say, well, it's about being a good person. Well, it's about, just being a little bit better, being a little nicer to the people around you. It's about maybe just treating people kinder. But I think that if that's where this story stops for you, that if that's where the end of the moral of the story is for you, that what can happen is, yes, you might be counting the passes, but I would question if you actually truly see the gorilla, if you see the big thing going on. What you have to know about this story is that Samaritans would have been hated. They would have been hated by Jewish people. The guy that he even would have helped would have never even been caught dead in a room with him. They would have hated them. And the reason why is simply because they were from Samaria. That was it. That was enough for me to not like you in this time. Oh, you're just from the wrong side of the tracks. You're just from that part of town. We don't talk to people from that part of town. We don't eat. We don't go out to lunch. We don't go to the movies with people from that part of town. So what this means is that this is not just a story about good people and being good and doing good things, but this is actually a story about popularity. This is actually a story about good and evil. This is actually a story about seen and unseen. This is actually a story about heard and unheard. This is actually a story about people who are liked and people who are not. This is a story about good and evil. This is Marvel DC. This is Lakers Warriors right now. This is like a big deal. Now, what I also know about this story is that if you read this story, there are some of us who maybe identify as the priest. Like when you're reading this story, the thing that would challenge you is, oh, well, I'm the pastor in this story. I've been following God for a little bit. I've been walking with God. And yeah, maybe I've overlooked some people. Maybe I've walked away from some people who were hurt. But I think if we really dove deep into it, I think if I really sat down with you and I asked you to really read this story and told you some of the things that were going on and you told me about your life, the majority of us would probably say we feel like this Samaritan. And if you don't say that you feel like this Samaritan now, you would probably say, oh, I've felt like this Samaritan before. And if you don't feel like this Samaritan before, can I encourage you, you're probably going to feel like this Samaritan in the future. But what's happened is that we have a person who in every single part of his life would have been unseen. So a lot of us, yes, we may see ourselves in the priest, but the majority of us probably see ourselves as that. Well, I'm just not the one that's seen. Well, I'm just not the one people see. Those are the people over there that get the good grades. Those are the ones over there that are the true athletes. Those are the ones and me, I'm just over here. I'm the Samaritan. No one really likes me, even though they don't know me. People talk bad about me before they've even met me. They don't like me just because of where I'm from, the school that I came from, or I switched out. They just don't like me. I feel like I'm the Samaritan. So what do? What's our response to this? Our response is to, okay, I'm going to work really hard, right? I'm going to work super hard, and I'm going to get good grades, and I'm going to get into schools that they'd never get into, and I'm going to make teams that they'd never make, and all those people that talk bad about me, I'm going to show them. I'm going to get more followers on Instagram. I'm going to get more followers on TikTok. I'm going to be an influencer. I'm going to be rich. I'm going to be famous, and all of them are going to wish that they would have treated me better. They all would have wished that they would. Oh, I'm going to show them. I'm going to work really hard. I'm going to show them. I'm going to show all those people. And then what happens is this seeps into our relationship with God to where now I am no longer coming to God for grace. I'm no longer coming to God for mercy. I'm no longer coming to God for love, but I'm coming to God for popularity. I'm asking, have you ever prayed this prayer? Oh, God, just make me rich and famous and we'll be cool. God, just give me a little bit more money and we'll be cool. God, just give me the blue check mark and we'll be cool. God, just let me show my friends how much you really want to use me and then we'll be fine. And then I'll show them. But the problem with this, the reason why this is an issue is because what we see from this story is that you and I, we can have popularity and yet still never fulfill our purpose. You and I can have popularity and yet still not ever fulfill our purpose. We have two people in this story who were popular. The priest and the Levite, they were popular. They would have been known. They would have just talked to people, helped people, and yet we only have one person in this story who would have fulfilled his purpose. We have two people who are even titled popular. We don't know their names. We just know what they do. Priest, Levite, they're named by their title. They're named by what they do. They're named by popularity. And yet we have another person who is named by his purpose, the Good Samaritan. We don't know what he did for a living, but we know that he was good. We don't know what school he went to, but we know that he was good. We don't know if he got the scholarship, but we know that he was good. We don't know how much money his parents made, but we know that he was good. We don't know what he drove to school, but we know that he was good. Why? Because people will not always remember what you do, but they'll always remember how you make them feel. Oh, people won't always remember what you do. People won't always remember that you played varsity. People won't always remember the touchdowns or the GPAs, but they will always remember how you make them feel. They would always remember if you loved them, if you were warm to them, if you treated them well. So can we as a youth ministry, which even if it's your first time here, you're family, so sorry, I'm that guy. But even if it's your first time here, can we as a youth ministry, can we say, hey, we're going to be known for being more than just athletes? Can we as a youth ministry, can we say, hey, I'm going to be known for being more than just a scholar? I'm going to be known than being more than just the person who's in musicals, the person who sings, the person who's good at sports. But can we say, hey, you know what? I'm going to be known for a person who loves, a person who hears the unheard, a person who sees the unseen, a person who leans in and who mends the brokenhearted. Why? Because people will not always remember what you do. People will not always remember what you do, but they will always remember how you make them feel. They'll always remember how you love them. They'll always remember how you treated them. They'll always remember. So what will you be remembered for? What are they going to say about you? What are they going to say when you switch schools? What are they going to say when you graduate? What are they going to say when you move teams, when you quit sports? What are they going to say? How will you be remembered? So I just wrote down 3 things, and they're really quick, I promise. I normally do 1 point, but they're 3 things. So what I'm going to say is if you have a phone, go ahead and take it out and then write these 3 things down, all right? We're going to talk about 3 things really quickly. 3 things that all of us should be remembered for, that the Good Samaritan is remembered for. And the first one is compassion. So go ahead and write that down, compassion. It says a despised Samaritan came along, and when he saw the man, he felt compassion for him. The other people saw the man and went to the other side, but the Samaritan saw the man and had compassion for him. The other people saw the man and ignored him, but the Samaritan saw the man and loved him. So the question you have to ask yourself, the question you have to process is, what will people say? How would this story look if you were one of the characters? If someone said, hey, they saw that person who was in need, and then they passed to the other side. Will it say, oh, they saw that person sitting alone at the lunch table, and they just went and sat with their friends? They saw that person crying on their way to class, and they just rushed to their group. What will it say? What will it say when you see them? Can you have compassion? And the second one is he was remembered for being caring. It says, going over to him, the Samaritan soothed his wounds with olive oil and wine and bandaged him. Then he put the man on his own donkey, took him into an inn where he took care of him. where he cared for him. The Bible even tells us, it says, you will be known as a follower of Jesus by how you love other people. That's what the Bible tells us. It doesn't say, hey, you're going to be known you're a Christian by how much you read your Bible. Oh, you're going to be known as a Christian because of the school you go to. Oh, you're going to be known as a Christian because you go to church. No, it says you're going to be known as a Christian by how you love people, by how you care for people, by how you walk with people. And the last one is commitment. He showed commitment. What does he say? He says the next day he handed the innkeeper 2 silver coins, telling him, take care of this man. If his bill runs higher than this, I'll pay you. When? The next time I'm here. He says, I'm coming back. The guy might not have even wanted his help, but he says, I'm coming back. The guy would have probably turned him away had he known who was caring for him. And he says, no, I'm coming back. Some of the best advice that I can give you is there are going to be moments in your life that you are going to have to be committed to people who might not be committed to you. Not putting yourself in dangerous situations. I'm not talking about that, but I'm talking about the times in your life where you're questioning, should I stay or should I leave? Should I walk away or should I commit? And can I encourage you? I rarely hear people say that they stayed too long, but I've heard a lot of people say that they left too early. I've heard a lot of people say, oh, well, I wish I would have kept that friend. I wish I would have reached out. I wish I would have helped the person. So 3 things we're going to be remembered for as a youth ministry. As a group of people, when people say, hey, Mission Youth, what are they known for? What are they going to be remembered for? It's going to be commitment. It's going to be that we care for people. And then it's going to be the 3rd one. Compassion. That we keep compassion towards people. What will you be remembered for? Go ahead and stand to your feet as we begin to close.